fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Well, I hope you brought your torches because we're going night racing tonight. We're headed to Twin Ring Motegi using a full road course, all 4.8 kilometers of it. And this is our final race here in Japan before we head down under for the next half of the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series here on Simspeed TV. Brought to you as always by Simfinity, RMS Race Management Service, and RSW Graphics. As always, my name's Ryan Jones. Alongside me, Cameron Dance and Jay Kennedy. Behind the scenes, last week, plenty of drama. A championship's been blown wide open now, potentially in favour of Harlow. But I think, Cameron, there's some people looking for retribution tonight.
Yeah, there certainly will be. There was all sorts going on last week with incidents throughout the field and just people tripping over each other and all sorts. Just, yeah, not going to plan for a lot of people, but nevertheless, we're here at Motegi for the final round of the Japan tour at least. And yeah, looking forward to it. And first time for the TCR cars as well. These cars haven't actually ever run around here in their entire history on iRacing. So it'll be a first to see how they go around here and see what the racing is like.
Hadn't realized quite how long of a lap it was either. So it's 2 minutes and 2 seconds in length. Now, Twin Ring Motegi has quite a few different layouts. It has the oval layout, of course, which is used every now and then in oval racing here in iRacing. But utilizing that big old road course, which has plenty of twists and turns, bit of elevation change too, should provide some really good action tonight. Let's take a look at our starting grid then for race one. No surprises, it's Harlow and Preston on the front row again. Dean Ross, Mario Vitani, and starting third and fourth, Mia Ott qualifying fifth. Wow, that's impressive. And then Dylan DeBono next to her, Andrew Hobby and Sal Galencio on row 4. And then Reese Howe, Sam Ross making up your top 10.
Just outside the top 10, you got Hydes and Garner on row 6, Grant Medford and Will Neal on row 7. Row 8 is going to be Benjamin Dahlia and Kobe Williams. Row 9, Eddie Beswick and Ashley Norman. And then Hedy Shield and Mazomo rounding out the 10th row of the grid in the top 20.
Tim Korn, Ira Felberg, Jaeger Pascoe, Matthew Spencer, the X4 cars, and Pariana Stackis and Jake Sperry on row 13. Matt Dunphy, Joshua Cavallaro, Stuart Crawford, Bradley Wingard making up your top 30. We've got 38 cars, or 36 cars in total for this one.
Yeah, so should be very, very busy on this quite technical circuit to see how this sort of racing goes. And turn 1, a double right-hander as well. It's quite wide, but the racing line is quite narrow. So hopefully we don't see too many incidents. And the darkness patches around the track where there's no lighting should make it quite entertaining.
Yeah, you could see from that shot there were some pretty unilluminated patches of racetrack around this joint. So could definitely prove a little bit spicy for anyone if they lose parts of their front end, lose those headlights and the lights that shine the way for them. There's the run down to turn 1. It's not particularly long, but you mentioned it's quite an awkward corner, a double right-hander, so to speak. I'll level with you. I haven't done much racing here. I haven't done much broadcasting here. So I've not got much to go off in terms of what to expect. But if I know one thing, this series is one of the most action-packed and exciting series we broadcast here on Simspeed TV. Never fails to produce. It's a 15-minute sprint, the first of 2 races tonight. What is going to be on display for us here? As the red lights come on, they extinguish and we go racing here in Twin Ring Motegi. Harlow aggressively ducking to the inside and then goes straight back to the racing line. As he decides he doesn't need to fend off Preston, Dean Ross going to swoop around the outside of that ART machine. He goes up to second place. Great launch from him.
Yeah, certainly a very, very good start, and just ahead as well for that final spot inside that top 5 Mia. Oh, we're going to go around the outside of Mario Vartanian and breaks a little bit later, but Vartanian going to have the racing line, and unfortunately is going to have to concede the position as a little bit of contact between Debono and Mia Ott, but nevertheless, a pretty clean start by the looks of it by everyone.
Yeah, indeed it is. Good to see. So all of our competitors will make it towards the middle sector of the lap at least. And Harlow has not been allowed, at least early on, to get away. Dean Ross sticking with Riley Preston in third. So Preston's got a lot of lost ground to make up in the championship. So that contact we saw in race 1 at the end of race 1, last time out at Okayama, he was given a penalty for it. That dropped him down to the fringes of the top 20 in the official classifications post-race, which means he dropped bucket loads of points. And despite winning plenty of races and getting plenty of podiums, he finds himself 4th in the championship now as a result. Look how well Dean Ross is doing here, sticking with Harlow.
Doing a really good job. It is doing a really good job at holding off Preston as well, who's trying to find a way on by, but just can't quite seem to do it. And obviously being nighttime, and the tyres are taking a little bit longer to take it, come up to temperature as well. So it's going to make it a little bit more difficult to try and pass. But you can see Dean Ross sticking his nose out to try and fill the mirrors at Harlow, but just not quite able to get a move done yet. And Preston's still applying a lot of pressure to the back end.
Gardner just went around the outside of, I'm assuming, Reese Howe to get up into 10th place. So that's a stunning effort from him. And now he's looking up the inside. I think that's in defense rather than attack, as Howe tries to get back by him. Looking for the crossover move, looking from the rear end of Sal Calenti's machine as Gardner pokes his nose up the inside, and the door was firmly shut in his face. And they're stacking up behind him. Caleb Hyde to the back of the straight as well.
Yeah, it's a very, very long train. This one is just outside this top 10, and there's cars going everywhere trying to scrap for position. You've got the likes of Matterford, Williams, Beswick, Dahlia. Hyde's all scraping for position as Dahlia and Beswick can go side by side at turn number 4 down to turn number 5 now with the run, and it's looking like it's going to be in favor of Dahlia, and it will indeed be.
Yeah, he'll slice through, but tell you what, Beswick was looking pretty strong as a contender for the crossover, wiping his nose across that back bumper there as they ran through the right hand and into the left. Look at that big dive from Beswick as Dalio is struggling to pull it up. Beswick slides wide, almost into the side of the 66, just kept it off him. And Kobe Williams looking to prove the beneficiary. He's got damage to the left side of his car already. And can't get there. He'll fall in line behind.
It's one of those things about this track. It's really quite difficult to overtake, especially in these cars where most of the corners are fast and flowing. You don't really have any opportunities to send one up the inside because you end up compromising yourself due to the fact that it ends up leading into some form of straight. So it's really making it a challenge for a lot of these drivers. But nevertheless, there's a lot of battles going on as now a couple of more drivers still going at it. You got Matterford and Heddershield further back, just inside that top 20 as Matterford runs slightly wide. But yeah, it's really, really close, but just really difficult to pass at the moment.
So race 2, look for strategy games to be played as drivers look for clean air then when they have to come in for their compulsory pit stop. Mizomo is working Hedgersfield over here. Now we get the overlap down the main straight to begin lap number 3. On the inside run, this should be a relatively easy move as long as he pulls it up, gets it turned down for the corner, which he does. Now he's going to watch out for the good exit. The Hedgersfield could get propped up on the outside, and he should fend him off. Look up in front, though, at this little group for the top 10. 2 by 2 by 2 they go into turn 3, and single file they come out. That's Gardner still trying to find a way through, and he did get by Galenti, but he's got Ross now in front of him.
Yeah, see whether he can actually get on by Ross. He actually did try to get around the outside of Ross as well with at turn number 4, but just couldn't quite get in a replay of Andrew Hobby having a little bit of a moment with contact with, I believe that was De Bono. So you can just see everybody trying to get moves done, and it's just not really paying off if you can't get it up there.
Well, that explains the congestion we saw then up at turn 3, why everyone was basically running over each other. They were all trying to get around that slow-moving car of Andrew Hobby as he re-entered the racetrack off the grass on the left. On board with Dean Ross here. Preston still trying to look for an opportunity, sitting in behind. They're not letting Harlow get away. He's still sitting off in front. Interesting to note with Harlow as well, you'll notice his car's looking rather ordinary tonight. The big news coming out over the last day is that he's actually left Altus Esports, a team that he's been so successful with and the team regarded as one of the best in the country. So keeping a close eye on what his plans are, but as for now, he is running as a privateer.
Yeah, certainly very, very big news to see someone like Jackson Susan Harlow leave the team of Altus Esports. It was a shock to a lot of people, in fact, probably the entire community, but a very minute few. But yeah, we'll see what his plans are in the future. But nevertheless, he's got that experience from driving with the team and knows the car very, very well. So he's able to use that to his advantage, even as a privateer. But at the moment, Sam Ross is all over the back end of Reese Gardner here, who's trying to fend him off, and Reese is having to go defensive to stay on the inside and hold that position, which he has done. But Sal Galente is not too far behind, and they're kind of letting Dylan De Bono get away a little bit.
Yeah, so Reese has just completed that move in the Fusion Sim Racing car to get by Ross. So he was just trying to cover off and make sure he didn't get overtaken back. And now they close in again on Dylan De Bono. In fact, look how quickly Gardner closes up to the back end. He's all over him here, so he's going to be close enough to make a lunge. Going to set himself up, getting to the left-hand side. He actually gets into the back of him there. The beginning of the braking zone, had to back out of it. De Bono left that door slightly ajar. Not quite wide enough, and again there, the squeeze was on off the exit. Now look here as they converge through the left-hander. Still an overlap for De Bono on the exit. And behind, Sam Ross has got nowhere to go. He has to sit and wait and decide which driver he wants to follow. Gardner around the outside on the brakes. That's very impressive. And he gets the momentum off the corner and completes it. So he moves up now into P6, gaining 2 spots on that lap.
Yeah, great move by Reese to go around the outside at the eastern end of the track. You don't really see too many moves, but De Bono goes very deep, and he's going to run wide and lose about 2 or 3 places. Actually doesn't. He ends up holding on to the place, but it's checked Sam Ross, Galente, and even Hobby up, and has now brought Dali and Howell back into this, and it's now a very, very busy trainers. Now Howell's going to try and find a way on by Galente, who's run a little bit wide and off the second. Now Dali and Howell are going to look to get on by him as well, so that's 3 for 1 in one corner.
And that was just inexperience and maybe a bit of immaturity showing from Dylan De Bono there. He'd well and truly lost that spot on the ship had sailed, but he still tried a desperate lunge up the inside, which, as you saw, didn't work out by any stretch of the imagination. Was very fortunate not to lose any spots out of it, and probably did agitate the guys behind him, though, who got caught up and are still being held up. As here comes Preston on the brakes, on the anchors, he gets it done. Finally, works himself up into second, but the move's not done yet because Dean Ross has just pulled a lovely crossover maneuver and gone right back on by him. And the Panther Racefield driver, Riley Preston, can't seem to get this done.
Yeah, he's looking left, right, and centre and everywhere, and he's just can't find a way on by. So Dean Ross doing an absolutely fantastic job in this race so far, and not long left in this race either. So if he can just hold on for 5 more minutes, he should be able to come home with a very, very solid P2, which he'll be very happy with.
Look at this, up the inside of De Bono. Think there was a hip check there. Sam Ross into 7th, and he'll notice that Gardner has disappeared out his front windscreen. 2.5 seconds he's pulled on these guys. DeBono, very much the proverbial cork in the bottle right now. Andrew Hobby will be the next driver eyeing up a potential overtake. Sal Galenti has lost out to Hobby. And then Dahlia, Howe, Bestwick, Hides lines up back there as well. This snakes all the way back to 14th place. Look at Hobby, the rear end swinging out like a pendulum through those last two corners. Now they're going to go 3 wide down the main straight as Galenti and Dahlia get increasingly more beneficial runs. Dahlia, the best of all, on the extreme inside on the brakes. Make sure he doesn't end up in the right side of Hobby. Hobby ends up in the right side of DeBono, and somehow it's Dahlia that comes out worse for wear.
Yeah, just saw the checkup happen of Andrew Hobby having to get on the brakes from DeBono checking up, and then unfortunately Dahlia clipping the rear end and ending up putting a lot of weight on that front end, and around he went, unfortunately, plus a little bit of contact from the car of Sal Galente as well. So really unfortunate for Dahlia there, as he's doing quite well, but this is a very, very busy pack still, and there's barely any minutes left in the race, and they've been going at it from lap 1.
Yeah, I think that actually all stemmed from Dahlia, potentially, as he went up the inside. Hobby gave it a little extra burst of speed, had to then check up a bit more than he anticipated, which resulted in Galenti behind Dahlia getting into his left rear as he checked up and around Dahlia goes. Meanwhile, Preston, he dukes it to the inside. That is a great move if he can pull it off. Wheel to wheel off the exit. In the background, by the way, Hobby has ended up off the racetrack. He couldn't complete the move.
Yeah, so bit of contact between Hobby and DeBono by the looks of it. Just looked like Hobby came across. Hard to tell on what's actually happened there, but it's sort of they've just come together. And unfortunately, Hobby's come off second best to DeBono, but that's still a very messy battle pack as it is at the moment with Galente, Beswick, DeBono, Howell, Hides, and Williams, and even Heddershield and Matterford and Mazome now involved in it. So it's a very, very long train at this point in time.
Certainly is. It's just getting bigger and bigger. DeBono's doing a good job. Got to hand it to him that he's been able to fend these guys off for as much as he has. And Hobby did it up a lot further off the racetrack, but I think Jay's backed it up a bit too far to see it. Meanwhile, on live pictures, Preston got by Ross, and guess what happened? He couldn't hold it. Ross is still in second place now. There's the contact that sent him spitting off into the gravel. And has cost him a lot of time. He is filtered back out into somewhere outside the top 15, back in 21st, actually. Frustration levels for Preston through the roof.
Yeah, they certainly will be, with the fact that he's just can't find a way on by. He's tried for 10 minutes and it's going to end up being 15 at the rate it's going, and he just hasn't been able to find a way on past Dean Ross, but he might look up the inside here at the hairpin. No, he's going to think better of it to sit on behind, but does fill the mirrors a little bit, so he's trying all the tricks in the book, but unfortunately he's starting to run out of pages.
Is there a sensational overtake somewhere in the last dying pages of this book that is feverishly flipping through, searching for an opportunity, searching for the gap that presents itself, but Ross is stern in his defense, unwavering and unyielding, and doing a fantastic job to get by and pull some great crossovers when Preston does get the move done. Here we go, into turn 1. This might be the opportunity if we can clear him off the exit, which he can't because Ross finding a lot of speed up on the outside of that first 2 corners. And now he has the inside run, and that will keep him up in second, and Preston can set himself up for the exit. Oh, he gets into the right rear of him. Turned it in a dip too early.
Yeah, it just can't quite get it. And he's starting to run out of corners as well because we're not too far away from it being the final lap, which looks like it will be. So he's really got to start thinking about trying to make a move here with the number of corners that he's got left. There's few good opportunities that he could possibly ever go at, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But meanwhile, the train that's just inside and just outside of the top 10 is still at large and still being very much led by the car of Eddie Beswick, and Sam Ross is actually checked out from them as well, so it's still very, very busy down further back.
We'll keep our eyes on the second place battle though, because that is the battle for the podium positions. We'll keep you updated on what happens behind them. Preston having a few connection issues as well. Wonder if that's been hampering his efforts so far. This isn't the main straight. There are grid boxes there, but it's not the main straight for this layout. That has only confused me about half a dozen times already this evening. He showed the nose. He's not close enough. He's struggling to pull it up. He's actually pushed him through the corner. He's gone very shallow. Would be lucky to get away without a slowdown or a cut track there. There's only a couple corners remaining because Jackson Harlow out front going to take victory for the first time as a privateer. And behind, Dean Ross comes home in second. Preston will clear the slowdown that he did get and finish in third. Mirot coming home in fourth. Vartanian making up the top 5.
Yeah, it's certainly a very good finish from Mir. Oh, but it's all on just outside the top 10, and DeBono and Williams have come together, and that's going to allow Hyde's header shield and everyone else behind to come on through and get a position on the final quarter. We saw it was going to happen, and there's more contact down the front straight between Cavallaro and DeBono, but what a finish to this race it's been, and a couple of drivers all gaining a lot out of that.
Yes, so DeBono and Kobe Williams, they were side by side for a while. Williams got up the inside, and then DeBono was able to keep the car there for the last 3 corners. And then he sort of pushed Williams out, and then tried to turn in across him and force him to back out of it. Unfortunately, Williams didn't want to back out right there. That's where he forced him out, and then he tried to shut the door. Williams, on the last corner, was never going to back out of that, and DeBono ends up in the kitty litter.
Yeah, I mean, Williams did have the right to be there at the end of the day. It's not as though he wasn't like a quarter of the way up and then forced it up the inside. He was alongside him the whole time. So, yeah, really unfortunate there for DeBono, but it is one of those things. It's the last lap of the last corner. You're not going to let it go easy, are you?
Now, that might be a tough one for race control to call, actually, because he was fully alongside. It depends on how they want to rule it, because at the point of contact, he's not as far as a B pillar, but he was at one point all the way alongside him and ahead of him even. So I don't want to be race control for that one. Let's take a look at the race results then. Harlow winning by a margin of 5.9 seconds. Dean Ross really faded in the second half of that race. Even still, Preston wasn't able to get by. Mirot and Martani, as we mentioned, at the top 5. Reese Gardner home in 6th place. After we saw him involved in that big battle, he gained 6 spots in the end. Sam Ross, Eddie Beswick, Sal Galenti, and Reese Howe are making up the rest of the top 10.
Now we go back to Kobe Williams and Caleb Hydes in 11th and 12th, 13th and 14th to Hedeshield and Mazoma. Matterford rounding out the top 15, Cavallaro in 16th, DeBono in 17th after contact with Kobe Williams at the final corner. 18th will go to Ira Felberg, Matthew Spencer and Andrew Hobby will round out the top 20.
Jake Sperry coming across in 21st, Diego Pascoe, Tim Corn, Dahlia, Wingard, Newell, Anastakis, Edwards, Norman, Dunphy, and your last 6 drivers in this one. Everyone finishing the race. Crawford, Gray, Credendon, Cousins, Fontaine, and Patterson. So we're going to go to a break here on Simspeed TV, but don't go anywhere, because when we come back, it's time for qualifying number 2 and race number 2 here from Twin Ring Motegi.
fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction, he's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Welcome back to the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series and Twin Ring Motegi on Simspeed TV. Thank you again to our sponsors, Simfinity, RSW Graphics, and RMS Race Management Service for your continued support of the series and of the broadcast. I'm Ryan Jones, Cameron Dance is with me. Race 1 was wild. We saw Riley Preston just getting absolutely hemmed in, I guess, by Dean Ross, unable to find a way by for the entire race. And then that battle behind for the last few top 10 positions, Cameron, was one of the best of the season so far.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was all on, and you had like 10 cars all nose to tail and within a tenth or so of each other. So it was really, really good to see, and can't wait for race 2 is going to bring on, because that's probably the best race I've ever seen around Motegi. So yeah, looking forward to seeing what race 2 has.
So for Hartwell, it was status quo. A team change, moving himself out of a team and into privateer land hasn't affected his performance at all, because he romped away in the end to that one. And he extends his championship margin, which before this race stood at 7 points. So it should be in the realm of at least 8 points now. It's a very tight points format, 50 to the winner, 49 to second, and so forth down the order. So you don't get much per position, but it really means that every position matters, and it adds up and stacks up at the end of a season to be a very close format. For Preston, after the punch in the gut he suffered in race 1 with that post-race penalty last time out, hasn't got back going quite as swiftly as he probably wanted to with a third place here. He needs to out-qualify everyone here, put himself on pole position, try to get some clean air, and run away, I think, is the strategy for Preston here, Cam.
Yeah, certainly, probably the optimal strategy that you want to do, but at the end of the day, with who's racing it, it seems like it's going to be a bit of a hard task, but nevertheless, he could use the pit stop to his advantage and do an undercut, but we have to wait and see what happens regardless.
Yeah, probably the better way I should have worded it is, if he doesn't get pole, he can come in very early and get some clean air. The more likely of the two scenarios, obviously there's nothing against his pace, but there's 40 odd spots on the grid. Only one of them is pole. Here's Jack Patterson, 111 esports driver. We haven't mentioned him at all, I don't think, really, tonight or this season. Teammates to Ira Felberg, sporting a big Simfinity sponsorship on that unmissable painted car.
Yeah, certainly been a bit of a quiet achiever. Patterson hasn't really been up the points here, but it's just been plugging away and getting some nice consistent points at the end of the day. So be interesting to see how he goes in this race today. Well, in the second race of the night so far.
And Will Neal just behind him, technically, on the racetrack. Maybe you can't see other drivers when you're out there yourself. It's single car qualifying, so you're unaffected by what anyone else is doing, but we get to see them all out there on the racetrack all at once. So Will Neal's been someone I've been keeping my eye on, because he's quite young, but he's got some talent. He has been slowly working his way forwards in the field and seems to pop up in a lot of different sim racing events. So he's very active as well. And I think probably someone to keep an eye on for the future. Good thing with sim racing is you get people from all different walks of life and different ages. And when someone new enters the scene, you always keep an eye on them And sometimes you get some real stars shining through. It's cool to see how some of the drivers come through the ranks sometimes. Dylan Gray, another new face to the series this season.
Yeah, certainly is good to see drivers coming through, and obviously, especially those young drivers, you sort of look at some of them and think they could be the next Josh Rogers or the next Jackson Susan Harlow or someone like that who could come onto the scene and just absolutely blow everybody away, and everybody just stands there with their hands in the air going, who's this guy and where's he from, sort of thing. It's really, really good to see. And you've even got the likes of the older drivers who are probably not quite as quick, but they're, in terms of mentally, a lot more experienced in what they need to do and how to achieve things and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's really good to see the different ways that drivers will achieve results and that sort of stuff.
And then you get the guys who come in off the backs of arcade games, thinking they're hot stuff. Guys like me and you and Jay, and then we turn up to iRacing and we realize, oh, we're not that good. There's guys like Josh Rogers and Jackson Harlow out here spanking us by multiple seconds per lap.
Well, I'll agree, but I'll partly disagree on my part because I've had the ability to race against some decent drivers in reality and also be able to keep up with them as well. Not to toot my own horn, but
And you did. You just did.
Yeah, I've been pro, so that's one thing.
But have you beaten Rogers?
I was a teammate, so I can say that, at least. I'm pretty sure I have beaten him, although we won't go that far because he did DNF. He did DNF, so I won't say that.
You were the worst commentator I could have had in the box when I made that statement. Good to note. Could have picked anyone else, but no, I went for Cameron Dance, the ex-pro. We're going to get some times on the board in just a few seconds here. Ashley Norman, for Chicken Up Racing, will put down his first lap of the gauntlet. And it's going to be in and around the 2-minute range as Harlow goes fastest. Surprise, surprise. Ashley Norman does a 2-minute 4.6, and that puts him in a 4th place for now, just behind Mirot.
And Harlow to the top, and Reese Garner to P2, and Preston to the top as well with 2 tenths. Just over 2 tenths quicker than Jackson Susan Harlow at the moment, me at P5 as well. So times are starting to flow in, and Sam Ross to P3 as well with an impressive lap.
Yeah, and good to see Preston getting one up and over Jackson Harlow here. Now, if he can maintain the improvement on lap 2 and 3, we could be on for a good fight in this race if Preston is able to start ahead of him. But, as we know, times are going to improve and plenty of opportunities to make a mistake and not get that crucial lap in when your tyres are in the optimal operating window. It's Ross and Ross, 3rd and 4th now, as Sam Ross props up into 4th. Or was it Dean Ross that pops up into 3rd? I actually can't remember who was there first. Either way, they're on the 2nd row together at the moment.
Yeah, it was definitely Sam who was up there first, and then Dean came along and put his time down. But nevertheless, we'll see what happens between those top 2, Preston and Harlow, and who ends up coming out on top in that little battle at the front of the field. Mazomo to P5 as well. So very, very good lap there from Simon as well to put himself inside that top 5.
See what RF Felberg can do. Sporting a different bonnet to his teammate, I've just noticed. Bit of orange on that front bonnet. Can't quite make... Oh yeah, a memorial bonnet to his good friend who recently passed away, unfortunately. See if we can carry him to a strong result qualifying here. Grant Matterford lost in the crowds. There he is. In the 379. It's a tricky last couple of corners, isn't it, Cam?
Yeah, it certainly is. It's very, very technical, especially that final chicane where you really, really want to try and carry as much momentum as you possibly can, but you know you can't, as you're going to end up overdriving, and then you screw yourself onto the front straight, and then you've ruined the next lap. So it's one of those things where you've got to kind of compromise and hope that you don't go in too quick or go in too slow for that matter. So yeah, it's a really technical track. It's actually not too bad to drive on your own, especially in something with wings and slicks, but nevertheless it's put on a lot of entertaining racing today, and we'll see what happens in race 2 as Reece Gardner's gone to P3, Mia Ott's gone back up to P5, and Mazoma's fallen down to P9. Well, Harlow's gone straight back to the top.
Yeah, Preston wasn't able to match the improvement of Harlow. They both improved, Harlow by quite a bit. Caleb Hyde's going to put down his first lap of the session, at least the first lap that counts. It puts him into 15th place, and it was actually his first effort, so he's going to be hard-pressed to get all 3 of his attempts in. In fact, he won't. All right, Harlow, his final attempt. A 2:02.751. Last time by, and I'll tell you what, that other main straight has done me in there. That wasn't our main straight. Now he's coming up to our main straight. And can he find an improvement that will put him on an even higher pedestal out at the front? As he comes to the line, it's looking good. What's it going to be? A 2:02.4. He finds another 0.3 of a second to shave off his lap time. Mia Ott in 5th, backing up a very good first qualifying effort. Improves, stays 5th though. Riley Preston. Is it good enough to knock Harlow off the pole? No, it's not. He'll stay 2nd. In fact, he didn't even improve on his previous best on that attempt.
1,000 slower than his fastest. That's pretty good.
Very consistent.
Dean Ross coming through the final corner. I've seen, as well as Scott Fountain, who's sitting in 20th place, and Dean Ross will improve but will only stay P4. We'll see what Fonte can do. 2:04.727 puts him up 1 place into P19.
Yep, just ahead of Caleb Hyde. So those two just switched around. Ross did improve to go 3rd ahead of Gardner. Caleb Hyde's, can he get one back over Fonte? No, he can't. He will stay 20th, was 22nd remaining in the session. And that is everyone actually completed and done and dusted. So let's run through the starting order for our second race, our main event, the 25-minute run to the Checkers. Harlow and Preston share row 1 once again. I think that's those two have locked out every race this season so far. Dean Ross and Reece Gardner start 3rd and 4th. Mia Ott from 5th. Ashley Norman, Sam Ross, Andrew Hobby, Benjamin Dahlia, and Mazomo up inside the top 10. Much better effort from Mazomo this time by.
Yeah, it certainly is. And then you got to Bono and Howell on it. Row 6. Row 7 is going to be Williams and Hedda, Shield, Newell and Medford on row 8. Row 9, Beswick and Vartanian. And then Scott Fountain and Caleb Hyde's rounding out the top 20 on row 10.
Matthew Spencer, Pariana Stakis, Joshua Cavallaro, Stuart Crawford, Sal Galante, and Tim Korn. 21st through 26. Jake Sperry, Ara Feldberg on row 14. Jaeger Pascoe, Dylan Gray on the 15th row of the grid. Isaac Edwards, Matt Dunphy, Bradley Wingard, Jack Patterson, Stephen Cretenden, and Cameron Cousins make up the rest of your field. Obviously, racing at nighttime, track temperatures are generally a lot cooler than they will be everywhere else on the schedule. Not actually the case. 28 degrees track temp for the beginning of race number 2, so it's pretty much stagnant with what we've seen everywhere else. We are in Japan. It is... well, it should be winter, actually, so I've got no response to that. Either way, relatively a good track temp, though. It's not exactly hot. Plenty of grip available to them. They're going to have to make a pit stop for 2 tyres at some point in this race. 25 minutes to do it. An estimated race distance of, I think I saw 13 laps on that graphic. So, when you make your stop is going to be crucial. Maybe not for tyre wear, but but for clean air, because we saw how hard it is to pass as Mizomo looks like he's giving himself a pep talk, warming his eyebrows up for lots of squinting, warming his vocal cords up for lots of shouting, depending on how his race goes. Red lights are on. Let's get this one underway. It's Harlow and Preston once again on the front row as the green flag comes out, and we are underway, and it's a golden start for your top three. Gardner and Ott will be the first two cars side by side. There's, Preston. He got a hit from Dean Ross into turn one. And that was very close to a spin, as in the background, someone else did go for a spin. No, he saved it. That was Caleb Hides. Good job.
Yeah, so far so good for everybody, and a much cleaner start than we saw last time out. Almost a couple 3 wide through the back in the field nearly, but a couple 2 wide as well. You got Mizomo and DeBono scrapping it out, and DeBono's actually gained up into 10th now ahead of Mizomo, so decent start considering you didn't have the best of launches, but it's very, very busy just inside that top 15 with a couple of drivers all trying to make moves at the moment. And that is Reese Howell copping it.
Yeah, that wasn't going to work. I saw them entering the corner. 2 cars on the extreme right-hand side of the race. Oh, what has happened there? Absolutely disastrous rejoin. And I don't think that was intended. Something's gone horribly astray. And they've wiped out a few more cars than should have been. So there were the 2 cars entering on the right-hand side. That caused the initial backup, and then the spin for Hedgesfield. And then, as he's tried to rejoin, he's accidentally...
It's like they've been locked together somehow.
I'm lost for words.
Yeah, that's very, very weird. It's like the cars have kind of gotten stuck together, and Hides has put his foot down to try and get back on the track, and it's throwing them both onto the line, and Patterson said nowhere to go but straight into the door. And then same with Isaac Edwards and even Matt Dunphy with nowhere to go really. At least he only had minor contact. That is a very, very big impact for Edwards and Hedeshield at least.
I don't know if you saw this. We just saw it live while you were talking us through that. Harlow just pushed Preston straight off the racetrack there. I think there should have been racing room given. I'd be very quickly onto race control about that if I were Preston. That was for the lead of the race too. So Preston now drops back to 4th. Mia Ott dived to pit lane on the first lap. She was 5th at the time. So bookmark her in the back of your minds for later on this evening. In about 20 minutes time when everyone's made their pit stops. Maybe sooner. And just like race 1, early on, it seems the pace isn't quite there for Harlow. Ross is able to hang on. Reese Gardner in 3rd. Now, Preston's going to be really ruining that contact because he's got 2 cars between himself and Harlow. By the time he gets by them, if he ever gets by them, might be the time where Harlow's tyres or whatever it is comes into effect and he starts to run away again.
Yeah, certainly going to be interesting to see what happens, and yet to hear Harlow being told to redress yet as well. So clearly race control haven't really decided that it was anything foul or untoward. So it just seems like they've said play on, boys, and carry on and see what comes of it. Is just behind actually Norman and Sam Ross going at it as well, and Reese Gardner all over the back end of Dean Ross as well, and Preston still trying to find a way by but can't quite at the moment.
Cavallaro, Eddie Bestwick have come together. That was really awkward. That was a slow-moving car. It was Will Newell, and it caused Cavallaro to dive to the inside of him. Look at this. Very slow on the entry, and Cavallaro dives inside and ends up into Bestwick, which is what turned him around. Maybe an onboard shot from Cavallaro. No?
Yeah, it was a very odd one. That one is sort of like he just missed his brake marker almost, but tried to make a move that was late on the brakes. Yeah, really, really odd.
Yeah, actually. I don't know if it was Newell slow or Cavallaro too fast. So, yeah. Either way, he comes off the worse. Up inside the top 5, it's condensed immensely. The top 4, rather. Norman has got Sam Ross, Andrew Hobby, Benjamin Dahlia for very close company. Notice that some of Mizomo's disappeared from the top 10 regions as well. Don't think it's because of pit stop. He's
He's
35th.
making a pit stop, but he had an incident at the final corner with Kobe Williams by the looks of it. Yeah, not quite sure how that's occurred, but it looks, it's a bit of an impact. It was racing between the two of them side by side through the final section, and just looks like they've touched wheels together, and unfortunately it's unsettled Williams straight into the side of Mizomo.
Well, there's Mizomo in the fence, and that was Williams backwards in the gravel behind. All right, there he is, up the inside. Now they run side by side into the winding final couple of corners. Oh, he's turned in on him. And then as he's lost control, he's slammed into the side, broken the front right, and the steering by the looks of it, on that Texas Fitztide car as well. Tough call from that angle, but I think Mizomo will be a little bit peed off about that. So Preston is being able to get by Reese Gardner. He showed the nose, and Gardner said, take it. So now, Preston is suffering with a PTSD because he's staring at the back bumper of Dean Ross again.
Yeah, certainly is all over the back end of Dean Ross at the moment is Riley Preston. And interesting that none of those top 4 have actually pitted at the moment. And Mia Ott currently probably benefiting a lot from being in clean air at the moment. Last lap round was, as actually yet to happen, but we'll be interested to see what happens in terms of pace and whether she can actually end up somewhere later on in this race once those top 4 have all pitted.
Well, she'll end up somewhere, but whether it's a good somewhere is what we're trying to find out. This is a great battle. Oh, that's the grass. Get out of the grass. Her last lap was a second off the race leaders, to keep you updated on that. And we'll finally get that move completed. That's the 11. That's Stephen Cretenden, who's actually a lap down. So, Reese Howe had a really tough time getting by. That's not the number 11, sorry. That's the car in 11th place, Scott Fontaine, now dropping to 12th. The little LED on the side of the car, that's what I was looking at on the rear window there, the blue thing. Shows their position at the start of the lap.
Yeah, Fonty doing an all right job at the moment, just holding on to an 11th place and holding on to Reese Howe reasonably well. Can't quite hold on to that top 10 position, but nevertheless, he'll give it a red hot go in these next few coming laps as Perry Anastakis coming under pressure from Sal Galante just inside the top 15 as they come through the east end hairpin, and Galante going to look to make a move up the inside as they head down the hill past the east circuit pit lane, and Galante is going to be well and truly alongside him as they get to the braking zone, and there is Anastakis just leading him on by, putting up no fight.
He rolled way out there, and Galante had no issues whatsoever. Still, no one else pits from your top 10. Ross coming by Ashley Norman, so Norman's actually lost out on his 5th position, and Harlow is now starting to gap them again. Jaeger Pascoe comes down as Dean Ross actually put in the fastest lap of the race that time, so responded to Harlow's upturn and pace. Gap sits at an even 2nd right now. This is still that battle with Norman and Ross for 5th. Ross was able to get by, and Norman trying his best to stick with him, hoping he can drag him further up the track, potentially give him a net gain by the end of the race. Reese Gardner looks like he's struggling a bit for some outright speed. Just 2 seconds up the road from these guys, so he may be a target for these two.
Yeah, certainly will be the next target on their hit list for Sam Ross and Ashley Norman. And Norman doing an all right job hanging on to Sam Ross. He just seems to be slightly quicker, ever so slightly, and hunting down Reese Gardner. We'll see what the lap time differences between the two of them next time by. But Riley Preston is all over the back end of Dean Ross now, but just can't quite get the run out of the East Circuit. But nevertheless, Jake Sperry currently has his hands full of it. Bradley Wingard at the moment, just inside that top 20 and just outside the top 15 as well. And who would have thought that Sperry would be inside the top 20?
He often is. He often stays out. But it's very rarely of his own pace and accord. Bradley Wingard's driven up from 33rd on the grid, actually, to get to the back of Sperry here. So he's charging with a lot of pace. And that was his teammate, Ara Felberg, behind him. All three of these guys, they started 27th, 33rd, and 28th, respectively. So they've all made some decent progress. Probably been together for quite some time. That's Matthew Spencer, just off in front of Galenti. To the right there is the pit entry. It too has a chicane in it, a bit like the last two corners of the regular circuit. Two cars taking a trip through the grass in front of Galenti, and he goes to the middle of both of them. That was Spencer on the left, Cousins on the right, who was a lap down.
Yeah, lap traffic starting to become a thing for everybody on the lead lap, with a few drivers obviously having to have pitted early on with damage and that. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in terms of pit strategy, and whether you have the likes of Harlow and that maybe pitting a little bit earlier than they need to, just to avoid having to deal with traffic.
Andrew Hobby on Ashley Norman is a battle that's really ignited at the moment, and they're running wheel to wheel. If Jay can get there, there we go. And Norman doing his best to hold him off, but Hobby wants this spot on the wrong side of the racetrack. Can he keep it there? He can't. So he had the look, couldn't make it stick. Now he's got to sit back and figure out where best he can now try to get by, as Norman covered a little bit. In fact, he covered a lot. It's a left-hander that came up next, not a right-hander. So Hobby looking in and out, not finding the route.
Yeah, certainly can't quite find a way on by at the moment. It can. Andrew Hobby and Ashley Norman doing an all right job holding on to this position from Andrew Hobby. He's not quite got the run down at the back end of the circuit, but nevertheless is going to be closing with that draft, but not quite going to be able to make a move this time around.
Now's when it might be worth Hobby diving to pit road and getting a benefit of clean air, potentially, depending on where he rejoins. He opts not to. He opts to stay with Ashley Norman. Reese Gardner, though, he does come to pit lane. So he was struggling a bit with his tyres. And Dylan DeBono has had an incident coming to pit road by the looks of it. This is a replay. He turns right to pit end. No, oh, oh, that's just, that's unlucky. So you can't really see the pit entry line too early. So he turned right, or went straight, but he went a bit premature, ended up off the track. Then he ducks to the left to try and find it, got himself all confused, and ended up in the fence.
Yeah, obviously with that part of the pit lane actually not being lit, it's actually very, very hard to tell and spot where the chicane, and it actually turns right and left if you haven't actually practiced the pit entry. So really unfortunate there, and very, very easy to do. But nevertheless, Dean Ross still holding off Riley Preston, even in the second race, and still yet to make their pit stops as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens between those two and whether Preston can maybe jump Dean Ross. But nevertheless, Ross doing a really, really good job in this round so far to be holding off someone like Riley Preston.
Yeah, considering the show that gradual improvement that he's been having for the last couple of races and seasons and factors. That was Hobby having a look, and Norman going a bit deep as a result. Hobby gets into the side of him off the exit of the corner, trying to find the momentum. Had to back out of it after that contact, and just lurking behind them now is Benjamin Dahlia. Could make this a three-way fight. He was half a second quicker last lap, so he's finding a big benefit from those two in front battling away. I wonder if this time Hobby decides enough's enough. I'm coming to pit road. He does. And he actually finds pit road. Unlike some who've come before.
Yeah, so a few of the leaders finally deciding to come down to the lane after a number of laps out on track to try and avoid a bit of traffic. So we'll see what happens there. Reese is the lead car who has pitted. So this will be a good benchmark to see where he stands in relation to the leaders. And Mir Ott's actually not too far behind as well. So Mir's actually done a really, really good job to put in some nice, clean and consistent laps and ended up not too far off the back of Reese here, was fighting for within that top 5 region in terms of positions.
So Sam Ross gets dropped off the jacks. He should be the lead car coming out. Gardner blows by him. Mirot goes with him. So Ross will cycle out into provisionally. That should be P5 or 6. Bradley Wingard's been given a drive-through penalty for something. Quality commentary, guys. Preston on the brakes. Did that work? Hasn't worked yet.
Not quite.
He's been desperate to get this done. He's on the wrong side of the racetrack, and Dean Ross is just able to crowd him out towards the left-hand side, looking for the crossover. So surprised that Preston hasn't put him, because it's clear he's got the pace. You would think that when he came out, given the chances of him rejoining a clean air, put in a good outlap and you get by him, but he's determined to make this one stick on the racetrack as he has a look, have a touch, and Ross saves it. A little bit of a hip check to Gardner as he saved that one and gathered it up. And now he comes to pit road, and Gardner will be left to his own devices on the racetrack. Preston will be left to his own devices on the racetrack.
Yeah, and Ashley Norman and Benjamin Daly have also come in, as well as Mario Vartani and Jackson Susan Harlow is also pitted as well. So everybody's starting to think that around now is the time to pit. But that incident between Ross and Preston is really going to have held up those two, especially in terms of their on-track position. It's really going to put the advantage in Mia Ott and Rhea Gardner.
All right, so Harley gets chopped off the jacks. He's obviously well clear of these guys. All right, Dean Ross is going now, and Gardner's onto the main straight. He's off the pit limiter. It's Dean Ross. On the right-hand side, you see him rejoin. So he's still got the margin over these guys. Not too surprising, but he has lost a bunch of time. Luckily, they had such a gap that it hasn't compromised him position-wise overall. Isaac Edwards, that lapped car in between them.
Yeah, so luckily Dean Ross deciding to pit when just shortly after that incident happened, so minimise the time loss. But be interesting to see where Riley Preston comes out in relation to Dean Ross as well, considering that incident happened. Very, very fascinating to see where they come out and whether Mia Ott and Reese Garner can possibly jump Riley Preston or not.
Well, I don't think we're going to get a good example of Preston's pace on a clean track, because he's going to come in before he gets to the start-finish line. Well, so you'd expect. He does have the option to keep circulating, as long as he pits before the white flag is shown. Matthew Spencer looks like he just took a tour of the infield, judging by the telltale smoke in the background. Or dirt, I should say. That car's understeered well wide, and he's actually spun it off the outside curb onto the gravel. And it's a bumpy ride back to the racing surface. Preston's into pit road.
So this is going to be the big talking point on whether Preston's actually going to have gained anything here, or whether he's just going to have completely lost out or not. And Harlow coming it through just under the bridge now where the oval is. So that's going to be at least second place for Preston. But Reese Gardner and Dean Ross are just coming through there now. So this is going to be quite close, because Preston is still up on the jacks.
I reckon Dean Ross is going to jump him here. Preston's going, but it's going to be too late. Surely it's too late.
indeed missed a gear there, actually. So this is going to allow Preston, but Preston's going to be on very, very cold tyres. So we'll see what happens here. Oh, and Preston ran a little bit deep in turn 1 as well, but it's very, very close between the two of them. And Mia Ott and Reese Garner aren't too far behind as well.
Surprised Ross didn't get by. Don't know if that missed gear cost him that much. Either way, Preston, for now, is able to serve up a bit of his own medicine to Dean Ross. He went from 4th to 6th, apparently. Fourth, 6th, back to 5th, yeah. That's not a mistake you want to do too often. It's better than accidentally skipping a dozen gears and going to neutral, though, on the downshifts.
Well, it's better than going to first, I guess.
Sure. Look how quickly he's closing up to the back of the Evolution Racing Team car, though. So those warm tyres doing justice. Oh, that's a mistake for Preston. He might have just thrown it away. Ross, looking to the outside. Just off in front is Jake Sperry, the lapped car, who's... Well, no, he's not. Again, I've made that same mistake. He hasn't pitted yet. But technically, he's not racing these guys for overall position. Look how deep they go into the corner. Closing massively on the back of that Swift Racing car. Will he get out of the way, or will he battle these guys? Because technically, he doesn't have to. He is scored in B3 right now. It's Dean Ross. Hunts for the move, and on the brakes, he gets it done. Preston looking for the crossover. Gardner's closing in as well. Sperry's in the way. Get out of the way, Sperry. He gets into pit road. And the battle resumes between these 3 drivers now for P2.
And all it's going to take is from the scrap even harder between the 3 of them. And Mia Ott's going to end up in the picture as well with a 4-car battle for these final 2 spots on the podium. And Gardner looking very, very racy, trying to find a way on by. And Preston's also trying to find a way on by Dean Ross as well. So it's very, very close. But the gap between Gardner and Preston is closer than it is between Preston and Ross.
Setting some cones flying on the entry there as he maximizes the racetrack. Trying to limit the steering input through the corners. There's 3 minutes on the clock. Harlow is 7.5 seconds clear of these guys. Second halves of these races have just been absolutely dominated by Harlow's pace. And Sperry, after pitting in front of the leaders, has rejoined in 18th place. That's a win for controller fans everywhere, being up inside the top 20. Jay behind the scenes has a little cheer because he too is a controller user, because he doesn't know how a wheel works.
Reese Garden now all over the back of Riley Preston as they come towards the east end here. Pin and a little bit of bumper-to-bumper contact between the 2 of them, and Reese only just pulls it up. Managed to not have anything bad happen between the 2 of them, but now it's allowed Preston to have a little bit of breathing room with that mistake from Gardner just running a little bit deep, and it's allowing Dean Ross to just pull away a little bit as well from these 2.
This would mark 3 runner-up finishes in a row for Dean Ross, if he can seal the deal here. Would solidify second place in the championship that he's currently holding as well. Ooh, who's that? Nikita Litter. Ashley Norman started off the racetrack from up to the top 10. That drops him to 9th. And that's Reese Howe that'll be smelling blood now and looking to get by. This is a replay. He was side by side with Andrew Hobby, and they've come together on entry, and hard to call from that angle. Maybe he turned it a fraction too early. They were both very shallow. And yeah. I think we just both went for the same place on the track.
Yeah, it just seemed like a bit of... probably just a little bit too close to each other, and probably just could have get a little bit room. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case, and then contact ensued. So a little bit unfortunate for the Chicken Up Racing car. But nevertheless, it's looking like it's a pretty decent battle still going on at the front of the field. There's not long left in this race. It's going to be the white flag the next time by, if I'm not mistaken. So not long to go for Reese to try and get a move done. But Preston is all over the back end of Dean Ross now after being released from the pressure of Reese Gardner. So Preston going to be trying to find a way on by, but will it be a repeat of race 1? We'll have to wait and find out.
I wonder if this is the last lap, or if it is not the last lap. Well, there are your two options. As Preston lunges up the inside, now he's got the overlap. It is the white flag, so this is for second place. Preston on the inside. Can he pull it up here on preferred line? Ross up on the outside, trying desperately to hold on. Preston leaves in the room. That's more than was given by Harlow earlier on. They come together. They touch. Gardner gets a piece of it as well. Harlow wins the race. Dean Ross, again, somehow, he's going to come home in P2. And Reese, Gardner will watch on as Riley Preston, again, comes third. Near hot fifth.
Yeah, nearly ended in tears for Preston and Ross there, but nevertheless, Dean did a fantastic job to once again hold off a charging Riley Preston to come home with 2 seconds. So some very, very solid results over these past 2 rounds for Dean, and he'll be very, very happy with that. But it's all on nearly between Grant Matterford and Tim Cornt, but apparently Estakis is going to bring it home in P12, Cornt 13th and Matterford 14th. Spencer will round out the top 15.
I made comment that it was more room given by Harlow earlier on in the race, and Preston got pushed out from second while trying to challenge in the same fashion Ross was there. And then they did come together. I think it was actually the issues that Preston was having with his connectivity that caused that. Because they came together in a straight line. They were very fortunate that no one spun out of that big ordeal. Either way for Harlow, backing it up with another victory. That's 2 from 2 this evening, and the gap just gets ever bigger. These year results, it was a 9.5 second gap back to Ross and Preston, the same top 3 from both races. Gardner and Ott in the 5, Ross, Dahlia, Hobby, Norman, and Howe the top 10.
And just outside the top 10, Sal Galante and Perry and Estakis in 11th and 12th. 13th, 14th, and 15th will be Tim, Cornt, Matterford, and Spencer to round out the top 15. Cavallaro will come home at 16th. 17th to Jaeger, Pasco, Mara Vartanian at 18th. 19th to Jake Sperry somehow. And rounding out the top 20 will be Matt Dunphy.
R.F. Felberg, Ellie Beswick coming home 21st, 22nd. Scott Fontaine comes home in 23rd after starting from 19th. Disappointing performance from him. Dylan Gray, Kobe Williams, 24th and 25th. Bradley Wingard, Daniel Hedgesfield, the last 2 drivers on the lead lap. Then Jack Patterson, Isaac Edwards a lap down. Cameron Cousins, Mizomo, DeBono, Hydes, Crawford, and Crettenden, and Will Neal all retiring from the race. So much more attrition being shown in that one than there was in our first one of the evening, Cam.
Yes, certainly. It was very, very full on. In fact, both races were very full on and really, really good racing as well. So, yeah, that can. Unfortunately, we can't go to this track again after tonight because of the fact that it's the round's over. But heck, if this was a 6-round series at Motegi, it'd definitely be the way to go.
Yeah, it's certainly been a good round of racing once again, and I don't think anyone's surprised by Harlow's pace. We did wonder whether leaving Altus would affect him at all, but evidently not. And he continues to dominate in typical fashion. Dean Ross continuing to impress, picking up back-to-back runner-up finishes to cap off the round he had last time out. But Harlow, again, dominating performance. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a fun race. Can't complain with anything. It was I like this track. It's pretty good. So yeah, can't complain.
Now, off the bat, you winning races, that ain't news, but you leaving Altus Esports, that is news. No one really knows. Why don't you give us the exclusive scoop, Jackson? What's going on there?
Oh, nothing to do with the team or anyone in it. Like, team's awesome, and I got a lot of good results with them. But it was just time to try something new, and I felt that me going privateer for a bit, I can get some more opportunities given to me, and yeah, I reckon I can improve with a few things that I didn't have the opportunity to do before. So yeah, at the moment, I'm pretty happy just doing laps, just trying to get better and better, and hopefully in the future, I can get a better opportunity and go for some bigger wins in special events and everything.
So the plan to stay privateer for now, and then potentially go fishing in bigger ponds, maybe even overseas, maybe to look for some big international teams.
Yeah, I guess you can say it like that, but I'm not really gonna like ask around and do all that stuff. Like, I'm just gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and if someone wants me, they can come and message me or ask me, and yeah, see if I'm happy to go there. And yeah, that's the way it will be. That's what I've always kind of done. I've never really gone out asking for teams and everything. I've had people come to me, and I've just seen what was the best opportunity for me.
Alrighty. Well, we'll keep a close eye on your endeavours then, because I dare say it'll be quite the catch for anyone to pick you up. Now, back to tonight. It was pretty clean for you all race long. Only piece of contact was with Preston on the first lap of race 1.
Yeah, no, it was clean. That was just some hard racing. He was trying to get around the outside of me in a few corners. I think he knew that once my car came up to speed, it was going to be hard to get past, and I think he knew he had to try and get past. He hasn't been able to the last couple of weeks, so yeah, I don't know. That corner, I don't think he can really go too wide. We're both super committed, and yeah, I rubbed doors with him, so my bad. Yeah, move on. I don't think there's really anything in it.
I'm just trying to create drama. It's what I do. I'm a commentator. Drama is what I love. You were struggling early in the races, though, or at least it seemed that way from up here. You had Dean Ross all over you. And then the second half of the race, you came alive. Was that just a case of tyres or setup, or what was happening there?
Yeah, well, that's the way I set like my setups up for TCR. I always set them up for long races, so like kind of have them set up for the big enduros and stuff that I usually do, and I just usually just use that setup. So it's always struggles the first 5 laps or something, but then once it gets going and other people start to hit that wall or drop off a little bit, mine just gets better and better. So it worked out good tonight, and it's all about in those first couple of laps just being aggressive and holding them off.
Well, congratulations once again. Is there anyone you want to thank? I don't suppose there's a big sponsor Eid anymore.
No, yeah, just there's not really anyone to thank. Just thanks to the boys in the Discord just for having some fun with it. Dylan DeBono for being my teammate in the teams championship or whatever you can call it. He's struggled the last 2 weeks. He didn't even turn up last week. So yeah, at the moment he's not really getting any points, but hopefully he comes back next week and has a stronger round.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us, and good luck on your head down under for the
Yeah,
last half of the
cheers.
season. All right. Some good scoops from Harlow there. Let's have a chat to Dean Ross, Cam.
Yeah, we certainly will. Well, Dean, pretty decent result for you tonight. 2 seconds to come off the back of the previous 2 rounds. You got to be pretty stoked with that.
Yeah. I think with Jackson's pace, it was the best I could do tonight. So, yeah, don't know how I'm going to find that extra bit to catch him. But yeah, pretty stoked with 2 seconds, yeah.
Now, obviously, you've had some very, very good results in the past 2 rounds. Is there been anything change in the way you guys have gone about doing your setups, or has there just been some form of improvement, or what's the story?
Not a lot of change, actually. I think it's just sticking to what you know. We play with the setup a little bit each week, but there's not a lot of change that you can make. It's just a couple of little damper tweaks, and yeah, otherwise it's just sticking to what we know. And as you can see, Sam's had some good results too. So yeah, we're coming along.
Yeah, we certainly are. Well, we head down under for the final 3 rounds of the championship, and obviously, with majority of the field being from Australasia, you're looking forward to it?
Definitely. Yeah, really looking forward to Oran Park. Hopefully I get a good result there. But yeah, we'll see. Who knows? It's a bit of a nightmare of a track if you don't qualify well. So, yeah, looking forward to that one, and Bathurst should be great too.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Well, before we let you go, just any shout outs and any thanks you want to give.
Yeah, so a quick shout out to Tyler from Apex Imagery, CPR Car Parks, Cart Parts, Eucalyptus Tree Services, and obviously Sam and Sal at BSR, and you guys. Cheers again.
Well, thank you very much, Dean, and all the best for the rest of, for next week. And I believe you're standing by with P3, Ryan.
Very presumptuous of you, but I am. Riley Preston, P3 today. I mean, surely you're a bit frustrated with that. It looked frustrating.
Yeah, you're not wrong with that. I think I've got Dean's car burned into my brain now. I can't get it out of my head.
No, I mean, you had a tough time passing him. You had a few opportunities. It just never sort of really worked out. I did remark that potentially in race 2, you could go for an undercut strategy. It didn't happen. Were you planning to, or was the overcut the strategy all along?
I was toying with the possibility. At the start, I was it was always in my head that I didn't just want to beat Dean. I wanted to beat Jackson as well, but kind of battling with Dean, let Jackson pull away that little bit every time. And I did think about that undercut, but then I didn't think it would work. I thought I would still have to overtake on track, which obviously I've been struggling quite a bit with. So I went for the overcut and almost worked, but the cold tires is just a bit hard to stay in the front of.
Yeah, really impressed with your pace again tonight, just continuing to improve. But I guess after last week's penalty, which got dished out post-race, what are your thoughts on that? Do you take it on the chin? Do you agree with it?
Yeah, I mean, it was my fault. I think the penalty was quite harsh because Jackson lost 1 point from that incident. I lost about 20, I think. But it kind of puts me out of the championship race unless something bad happens to Jackson, which, won't happen when he's 10 seconds up the road. But we'll see how we go. I'll keep pushing each week and hope for the best.
Make your opportunities, and they should come either way. I think we'll definitely see you battling for more race wins and podiums before the season rounds out. Before I let you go, who do you want to thank for their continued support throughout the season?
Thanks to the guys at Evolution Racing Team, Penta Race Fuel, Joe Real Timing, and MIR Raceline.
Thank you very much, Riley. Best of luck when we head down under next race.
Cool. Thank you.
That was Riley Preston then, your third place skater this evening. Let's wrap things up from the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series. Once again, thank you for tuning in. Been a lot of fun here at Twin Ring Motegi. Next week, we head down under to Oran Park or Bathurst, one of the two, or Phillip Island. We're heading down under. Next race in the Ozicar Turbo Touring Car Series. Tune in at the same time on Wednesday night to find out exactly where we are. Should be a cracking race no matter what. From all of us here in the booth, my name is Ryan Jones, Cameron Dance alongside me, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes. We'll see you next time.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now. He's got traction. He's got rid of the outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God.
Big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Six very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, there we go.
Oh no.
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?